there's a rubber fitting here, and you need to put the rubber here, not onto this fuel tank assembly. Okay, so first you will put that rubber inside, make sure it is flushed, then you will put this thing inside. Otherwise that rubber margin here will be rubbing somewhere and this will not go inside. Put it back inside. Always you will tilt it this way so that this fuel this thing goes first, because straight this will touch this. Okay, pushing our loop, and slightly we will push our loop. Here it is with my finger, and the loop is inside. So now the fuel pump assembly is touching the bottom of the fuel tank, and now it is pressing inside. Look at that, I can press it inside. A very important thing, once you press it inside, this thing won't rotate. So okay, so keep it as it was before. For example, this arrow was here, so I will rotate it, okay, like that. It was like that. So
you see an extra fitting there, but that is in the future. When my OEM Honda fitting was leaking, so I had to drill another feed line and fit another fitting, so that will come in the future. This is just to show the fitment method.
come on, out of the way please. And now we will press it inside, and this will be jam inside that rubber. Okay, now it's pressed and it is not coming up. Okay, so that way it will be very easy for you to tighten this thing. Okay, otherwise if this is above and you are tightening this will be very difficult. Now that is pressed all the way inside. Look at that, how easy it will be with the hand. Okay, and on the end few rotations you can use this device or other devices. So look at that, it's almost done. Look at that, it's so easy if this is pressed before. Okay, so now all my orientations are good.
As you saw in previous video, this is universal product, but I was struggling with it because in each turn it hits the seats. Okay, and I stripped off the leather too, and now I have marked it and I will be cut the extra margins. Because this is universal product, so they made it slightly longer, but I don't need it.
Okay, almost tight. Now I'll be tight with this thing. Okay, the last thing we need is to join our I have removed the factory line, the rubber line which was connecting through this EVAP line, and was joining this one. But now we will be using that line as our return line, and I'll be using a separate line for the EVAP line, this line. Okay, this I will be rerouting it to the behind the car. I will show that later.
As I will be using the EVAP as my return line, so this pipe, this right here, okay, this was joining this here. Okay, his rubber pipe I showed, which factory pipe I removed, that was joining this to this one. But now I will be joining this to this. Okay, my buckle nut fitting, and a little tubing will join here to here. But this EVAP system I will be routing outside. Okay, in behind the rear axle. I will show that. And this fitting, this is mystery fitting. I still to date don't know what was the purpose of this. This was not present in my Honda CRZ. Okay, this fitting, and this is our main feed line going fuel into the engine. But bad luck, this fitting was still leaking, because this is a two-part fitting I showed earlier in the previous video. So I had to take this whole assembly out and drill another feed line here, separate here. Okay, but that is in the coming parts.
So let's see how I'm making that. So this was the AN6 to AN6 male to female 90 degree. What I did was remove that part, and then with a heat gun, because the fitment is too tight, with a heat gun, okay, I heated it up and then applied a 10 mm fuel injection clamp. Now I will measure the length, cut it that, and this end will be joining the factory EVAP line. Okay, another bad news, that buckle fitting is hitting this lid. Okay, so now what I will do is this, I will hammer this up, this part. Okay guys, after a lot of effort, this is the line connecting our bar fitting to the factory EVAP line, and I will read out EVAP line to the behind. And I am having a problem because this lid, this was not going on because this fitting was hitting over there. Okay, this was, so what I did was I hammered it up so that that bend was over there. Okay, so that covers that problem. Before I showed you my this is actually now my EVAP line. Now it will be using a return line.
If you are wondering from where I took these fittings, and this is near the firewall where this AC vent is going in or coming out, so that is that location. And this is the EVAP line, the right one, and the left one is the OEM feed line. The feed line here is equivalent to AN4, okay, which is pretty smaller, but it can manage up to 400-500 HP, so that's good. And this fitting is AN4 to AN6, okay. These fittings are available, but on the right side the EVAP line is equivalent to AN3, okay. So no online fitting is available, EFI fitting, so you have to just heat up your pipe, narrow pipe, and just put it on and secure it with some clamps, okay. But here you can snugly fit, because this is, we are using a return line, so return line is very less pressurized, okay. Return line have very less pressure, so AN3 and it is enough, and it is not leaking because it's very less pressure here. The main, this line, the feed line, this should be secure, and this should be snugly fit and EFI fitting, so that pressure is maintained and no leak is there.
So I first, before that, my EVAP purge valve was here, so I am routing it into the back so that the engine bay can be more cleaned up. Okay,
if you are wondering where this valve is located, this is located near the EVAP canister, okay. This is the view of the Honda Fit, and this is the EVAP canister, this one, and here is that tiny valve. I just unbolted it and removed that with there, because now I am we are converting our fuel system into the return fuel system, so we are bypassing the factory all these systems, okay. So how this works is this is the line coming from the fuel tank. This is going in here, okay, into the manual purge valve. If the for example the car is not started, it's okay, the car is parked in outside summer and there are fumes in the fuel tank, so they are stored in this canister, and this is vacuum line going into the intake manifold. So when engine starts, all these stored vapors are burned again into the engine, okay. So, and this also have a manual purge valve. For example, the car is the man is not has returned, the car is in the hot sun and the fumes are more and the fuel tank pressure is rising, then after some time this opens and removes the extra vapors into the environment, okay. Like this, or example, I think here it is venting to the atmosphere, okay. So that covers the EVAP valve, but now we will be routing this into the back, okay, because here is now turbo, so it is not safe the fumes to be purged here, okay. Fumes and turbo, okay, not good, fuel fumes. So that way I'll be routing it into the back behind the rear axle. That will be the most safe position.
Actually, this is not a separate device. This is attached to the EVAP canister. Okay, this here was that secure box, and in CRZ or any other car, it is usually behind the rear axle, or it can be any location depending on your car. So what it does is it passively bleeds extra fuel tank pressure. For example, if I blow through this, the air after some pressure went through here. I have applied some filter there's a mesh filter over there.
These type of venting filter usually come with a these solenoid, three port solenoid, 4-port solenoid. Okay, and these can be ordered separately. For example, like this, I ordered 5 and they were very cheap. Okay, either these are 1/8 NPT or 1/4 bar fitting. So that's easier way, so that there is no dirt going into your fuel tank. Okay, because if you leave the other end open, the when the fuel tank pressure is less, it will be sucking dirty air from the environment.
Because in a factory car, these pipes lead to intake manifold, so that these vapors are stored in the canister and are burned in intake. Since our car is modified, intake pressure is usually positive due to the turbo, so the fuel tank pressure will further be positive or it will raise it. So that's why I have routed it outward. Okay, so what we'll be doing, this will be connecting to the this EVAP line over here, and this pipe we already passed, this will be connecting to here, and through back it will, if the pressure in fuel tank rises above certain level, it purges it. For example, if I blow it through here, it feels some resistance, but if I suck the air through there, if I suck it, then it comes freely. So that sometime in winters fuel tank shrinks because it's cold, fuel shrinks. So if you don't attach this, what will happen is fuel tank shrink and the level will rises. The fuel reading, the car will seems that fuel is more, but actual fuel is less because fuel tank is shrinking. Similarly, in summer when the fuel tank expanded, because newer Honda has plastic fuel tanks, older Honda were having the metal fuel tank. So when the fuel tank expands, the level of fuel decreases. So the car seems that the fuel is low. Actual fuel is not low.
In future, when I'm making this video, there is still no solution for the fuel tank erratic reading. Okay, the fuel gauge sometimes tells the right reading and sometimes tells the wrong. I did everything. For example, converting to return system and rerouting the EVAP system, everything, and retaining the Honda stock lines, but still there is something we have not discovered yet about the case swap in the modern Hondas, and I'll be making a separate video to cover that topic and what I have done and what are the problems and what are the solutions that may work, but still no definitive solution so far.
I'm gonna pass a long PTFE pipe through here. Look at where the big pipe is there. So I will pass through here, and that will exit me from from behind that plastic pipe. Okay, these look at these 3 pipes coming. So it will be coming from here, and I'll be mounting it somewhere here, away from my exhaust. This exhaust on right side, and I'll be mounting on the left side. Okay, so it will be okay. So this was difficult to pass because this was curvy. So I found out this line, an older bicycle line I was having there. So I passed it here, and look at that, it is came right through back. Okay, look at that, the hanging wire. So this is the line I used to pass. This is a very straight line, hard line, and from the old cycle, a bicycle brake line. This was actually that. And meanwhile, I also applied some heat proof tubing toward it. And now, because you never know, it has come from here, and now
I just taped the two end together, the bicycle brake line I passed and this pipe, and then pulled the bicycle line and the pipe was passed through.
Okay, so my EVAP valve is complete. Here it is, mounted with a zip tie, and that is the line going inside the car. Okay, so if now I will connect this line to this pipe line, and inside work will be complete. And with that, our EVAP system, the line is connected, all the clamp is mounted. This is that mysterious Honda extra spill, whatever you call this. This is my in main feed line to the fuel rail, and this is our return line from fuel pressure regulator which we will be installing now in the engine bay. So I will not close the lid now because once I start the car I will check any of the leaks here. Okay, so let's put the handbrake to the rest and move to the engine bay for the fuel pressure regulator and other installations. Okay, so I have chosen the location of this fuel pressure regulator, the AM one, and here is my line coming, and here it is feeding the fuel line, and here it is return. Sometimes people say that people usually do what with the conventional return system is, it is the line is coming here, and then from here the fuel pressure regulator is here, and then return is going through, so they are running. But since the distance between this and the fuel rail is so small, so theoretically the pressure inside here should be what is inside here. So that's a new type of return system, and it is more compact. You don't need aftermarket fuel rail. Okay, I did not do anything with my fuel rail. This is stock fuel rail, so I have removed the this cover, and look at that, the fuel rail is stock, and just I use this fitting. Okay, this is called this fitting AN6, the 5x16. So, and this if you are wondering, the CRZ, the Honda Fit or newer Hondas, the normal one which use width equal to AN4. Okay, and the RSX, the Civic Si, and the DC5 Integra, these all use AN6 compatible. Okay, so their fuel line is slightly bigger. Okay, but this AN4 is enough, nearly 500 HP. Okay, if you want to push 800 HP, then you will need AN6 system. For example, in my CRZ, this is all using the AN6. Okay, from the fuel rail, from the fuel tank to all the way here. But in Honda Fit, I use the stock fuel lines, the Honda hard lines. The feed line I also used that, and the return line I used EVAP line, and I rerouted EVAP line in the back as I showed you earlier. So the fuel here I was having the fuel pressure sensor with this fitting. Okay, but since if I because the space is so tight, if I use the fuel pressure sensor here, that pushes almost 2 inch to this to the more toward the turbo, and since there is more heat in the turbo, so I don't want to push my fuel regulator toward the turbo. And this is the final location. I will make a sport already. This comes with the sports, so I will make a sport, custom sport, underline here and fix it this screw, so that it is at this position, slightly lifted. So that way there's almost 2.5 inches space between the manifold and the fuel pressure regulator. Also, I will wrap this portion of the manifold from here to here. Okay, so that more of the heat can be contained here. Also, I will apply these the heat shields to cover all this portion, so this will be totally heat insulated. And here you can see these nice white on sleeves. These are also fireproof. Okay, so I don't need to worry about any of the heat coming in here. So that's cover our fuel pressure regulator. And also I fitted the cowl shield, and it covers the fuel pressure regulator is still very much, almost 2 fingers space from the cowl shield. Okay, this is called cowl shield, which contains the wiper motor and all that. Okay, so this clears that too.
Regarding the detail about fuel lines, how to make them, how to use the fittings, I will cover them in the next part, because this is getting too lengthy.
Another interesting thing is the Honda uses 5x16 equivalent here, but here they use the fitting equal to 3x8. So I don't know what is the reason behind it. Behind the line going, that is AN4 equivalent, not the AN6. As I told you in Honda Fit or CRZ or normal Honda Civic. But in their performance model like SI, like their Accord or Integra DC5 RSX, they use the AN6 convenient lines, okay, the thicker line, bigger line. But this is enough for 500 HP. I don't need anymore. Very important, since this fuel pipe regulator I was doing in that, and now it has been shifted here. So I have changed the washer with a new one, white on washers, and these are very durable white on material, as you know. And this is the I bought from AliExpress, and very useful. I have used them with many occasions, okay. Contains all the range. Okay, to further lift it away from manifold, I have, this was touching that, so I have manually lifted this thing. So this metal slightly bent and very, look at that, this slight flexible. So I have, now I will just trim this part of this plastic, and I can push my, I can push it up, okay, easily. This is slightly malleable, so now I will push it upward. So as you can see, that was straight, and now slightly it has been lifted, okay. It is still clearing this, and now I will trim slightly this plastic so that this does not touch, and that will make plenty of clearance under my, okay, this and that. Almost now I have added 3 inches, okay. So instead of using the AEM one, was because this was needing 2 fittings, instead I made a custom one using a universal whatever this is, the universal support. So it's very easy, fixed down with 2 screws, okay. Where is that? Here, okay. So 2 screws down there, and it's nicely supporting it. Not my purpose was that this should not go toward the turbo, so this is holding quite nicely, and this is lifted almost on its own weight, because these are lines are very short, so these are very tight and holding it nicely in place, okay. So this is just supporting from behind and from going it toward the right. That's it, that's the purpose of it, okay. It's very sturdy. So with that, our whole system, fuel system of the Honda Fit Turbo is complete. Honda Fit Case 24 Turbo is complete, okay. And this is return line, this is feed line, and this is almost a part of this, so that the pressure inside is the same as this. And this is the vacuum, and I will be attaching vacuum line here, nicely tugging it somewhere, and this is the vacuum line toward my wastegate. And now I am waiting for my battery to arrive so that I can shift the battery toward the back and finally pack everything up, and then let's spin her up for the tuning, okay. And right now I will be covering this whole area with a heat insulation tape, okay, so that, and after that I will be installing the cowl shield and also installing the cover, okay. These are minor things. Look at that, I have already made a nice shield, so when this will downshift, this will protect the turbo. Since these cars are not turbo from the factory, you have to make sure everything is heat insulated, okay. Everything, you have to check everything if you want the reliability, okay. The car has been started. So far no leaks, nothing. That's a good sign. Let's check inside. Okay, so far so good. That's good. So AFR is good, 14.8. Everything is okay. No check light. Okay. There is a slight complication. Look at that. You can see the fuel slightly around here, okay. So I think this fitting is leaking, because this is the only fitting which can leak, because this is a 2-part fitting. Look at that. I can move it with my hand. So I don't know why Honda made it a 2-part fitting. Look at that, if you can Look at that. This is moving this and this fitting. This is one part, okay, one is above and other is connected to the pipe, so it's not possible that this is leaking. The only possibility which I can think of is this fitting, the yellowish pipe, the return line. So this is not leaking, this thing is leaking. I think I will tell you after I fix this problem. So I will be using JB weld because I am reading that it is fuel resistance, okay, completely resistant to water and gasoline. So I'll be using my JB weld to seal that thing. Let me show you the problem. The problem lies with Honda, not with me, and I have cleaned off the way I can the cheap epoxy I applied. And if you look carefully, look at that, that fitting will open from here if I press it from here. Carefully look at that fitting is opening from here, and if I press it from here, it is opening from this side. Look at that, it is opening from behind. So now I have searched that JB weld is resistant to the fuel, so I will be using this to seal that. I tried to search the Honda bond, but I am not sure this will be resistant to fuel, but online I have read that this is resistant to fuel, so I will be sealing with them. Okay guys, again time to start the car, and it has been protected, heat protected, and overnight rather yesterday I applied that JB weld over here, and you can see I applied plenty and I let it soak for 1 day complete. Okay, so it's been 24 hours past. Now I'll be starting it, and I also want to record the sound of the fuel pump. Although it is a compact fuel pump, we may hear a small sound. Let's see. So you see the fuel circulating, and it's very quiet, almost none. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So it's been starting, and let's see if it leaks from here or not. First let me check here if anything leaking from here or not. Okay, and yeah, it's fine. It's fine too. Let's go back again. Okay, so far so good. And now I will go for a test drive and see if anything again dribbles or not. Okay guys, so again bad news, the JB weld did not fix it. So as you can see, I was on test drive. In first 10 minutes or so there was no oil and there was no gas here, but now you can see if I touch this, look at that, that's fuel. So I don't know, I have to use a new feed fitting, because this Honda fitting is weird one. It is a two-part fitting, okay, so maybe it is the under part which is leaking. So after that I will upload again. Let's see what happens.
So you see, these modern cars are very complicated in regarding of the fuel system, especially the returnless fuel system. So what I will do in next part is I made a whole new lines and then till a new feed, and then of course made it the loop, and then passed the new lines through, made the new fittings, and I will explain some about fitting and return and convert it into conventional return system, okay, with cheap fuel rail.